This question is briefly explain one strength of interference theory as an explanation for forgetting. Now, the best, easiest thing to do is to just say that there is supporting research which implies that the theory is valid. Now, there are various studies that you could have used to make this point. In fact, I'll start it off. So, one strength of interference theory. Explanation for forgetting. And it is supported by research such as, now on the slide there was McGotch and MacDonald, which is about recalling lists of words, and they were split up into similar and dissimilar, which is very kind of similar to the question that we just did before. You can do Underwood and Postman. Again, they did word pairs, slightly different to the McGoch and MacDonald one, but you know, you could do either one, whichever one you fancy. But actually, I would probably go with Baddeley and Hitch, just because it's just a bit easier to remember and a bit easier to kind of discuss, and it is an example of retroactive interference. So if we just copy that over, let's delete these. We obviously don't want this all in loads of detail because we are evaluating because it's one strength, so we need to kind of summarise it. So such as Baddeley and Hitch. Now, what you do is you briefly mention what they did and what they found. So who found that rugby union players who had played the most games, not injured, because that's the group. So it says here, some had played every match, others had missed due to injury. So we don't need to put all that in. Forgot proportionately more games from early in the season than those who had played fewer games due to injury. Or in fact, I might change that actually. Found that rugby union players, in fact, just get rid of all that, we don't need that. Forgot proportionally more games from earlier in the season than those who had. Okay, so now we can't just leave it there. We need like a kind of conclusion, which is basically our link back on our appeal. So therefore, supporting that retroactive interference is an ecologically valid theory of forgetting. I've just dropped in the word ecologically because it's done in a natural setting, so I'm kind of like bobbing that in there to show that I actually understand that too. I mean, you could go into detail about that, but what's the point? It's only 2 marks. If it was 3 marks, I might go into a little bit more detail, but that should be enough there. So the strength is that it's got supported research, that's your point. Then we've got the evidence, so Baddeley and Hitch and what they did and what they found, which is the evidence bit. And in actual fact, it's like a P, so it's like a point evidence explanation. And then therefore, supporting the retroactivity is an ecologically valid theory of forgetting. And that's it, that's all you got to do. Easy as that. I'm trying to think if there was, the other point I was going to make is, instead of putting this bit, you would just put in the other studies, like the Underwood and Postman one, and you might change this. It might not have been retroactive, it might have been proactive, or you might have just generally put interference. That would be fine. If you weren't sure, you might just put interference, but the Baddeley and Hitch one is evidence for retroactive interference, so you can be a little bit more specific with that study, but you don't have to be with the other studies. So again, you can use the structure and just take out the application or the evidence and just swap it in with different bits, so it becomes a bit easier to do. And you know, you could swap this and put a different point about, it could be reliable or whatever, depending on, you know, the point that you're making.